Hey Becky, welcome to another episode of Women in Tech series by Plato. Please start by introducing yourself.
Cool. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Becky Flint. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Dragonboat. I'm very excited to be on this show.
Awesome. Becky, can you please tell us a bit about Dragonboat?
Yes. So Dragonboat is a platform. It's a smart platform to help companies to accelerate product execution. So really taking what you intended to, what you wanted to do, and looking at the people and the members and find out the best way to take the product to the market.
That's great. And how did you come up with the idea of Dragonboat? What led you to start it?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Dragonboat is, in my friend's word, is Becky in a box. So in my career, I have been working very closely with the product management, with the engineering management. I've been on both sides of the world, and to help the team to find out what's our goals, how do we work together, how do we take a customer and a market demand, and how do we take the team, how do we organize things together so that we can build the best way to take the team aligned, also take the product to the market fast. But that was done historically by spreadsheets. In the time I was at PayPal, I was leading PayPal global expansion. Later on, I went on to lead a program management and delivery at Shutterfly, Tiny Prints, and then later on, two more companies, the BigCommerce and Fizai. So all these companies have gone through very fast growth period of time, and we have to constantly adjust and juggle between our priorities, our market needs, and then teams and hiring and organizing. It has been always very chaotic. And for us to work really well together, and that's the name where Dragonboat comes through, is to be a coordinated, aligned team so that everyone can row along the same direction to achieve our goals. So that's after spreadsheets and a lot of work, I realized there's no tools to actually help us to do it intelligently. So we built a Dragonboat, not only follow a process and a method how to align and coordinate and organize team together. Also, we bake in our experiences and intelligence so that we can learn and help the rest of the members to do that without hiring a huge team and lots of spreadsheets.
That's awesome. And I'd love to dive more into your role and responsibilities as a CEO. But before that, let's take a trip back down memory lane, because you mentioned some amazing companies. You mentioned PayPal, BigCommerce. You've been at some really big companies and done a lot of really cool stuff there. So can you talk about your early days of your career and kind of like that journey as well?
Yeah, cool. That's great. I'm glad you asked that, because I always look at people's career, and that's fascinating to me. But when I look back at my own career, I realize, wow, that's a very unusual journey. And I actually have a background in medical. So I was almost a medical doctor, but I decided to change career in some ways because I could not become a surgeon, because I was, a woman that wasn't welcome to be a surgeon. So I decided to change career, and then I came to US. At that time, I was already fully grown. I was 26. I had $500 in my pocket. I barely speak English. I went to school here and trying to learn business. I had a business and a finance background. What happened was that was the time where, first eras of internet in the year of 1997. So everyone was doing some technology startups, and I was interested and excited and intrigued to find something so new and fascinating. So I joined a startup. I worked in a startup for free because I was a student, couldn't really work for pay, but I just really enjoyed working there, helping companies to build websites. That's how I get into tech, and one thing leads to other. Through the eras of the dot-com growth and dot-com bust, and I land very luckily into PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
So PayPal is a new chapter of my career, if you will. I started as a project manager and was the first member of the team in terms of growing PayPal international expansion. But PayPal was growing so rapidly, and I learned so much, and my responsibility grew much, much bigger over time. You know, when I started at international expansion for PayPal, I was the project manager in that group. PayPal was only at 5 countries. By the time 6 years in, PayPal went to, I think, more than 200 countries. And I have gone from individual contributors to program managers to managers and senior managers, and leading a team in 4 locations. And that's really gave me a different perspective of how growth and challenges coming along with it. And you know, obviously, I've done a few other roles at PayPal, leading product and help PayPal to do planning and roadmap execution. And that's the time I decided to move on to a smaller company, look for a new challenge. I joined a company called Tiny Prints, which was acquired by Shutterfly, and worked there for a while, helped the company to integrate a smaller team, a 100-person team, into a bigger organization. And you know, chances to lead to another great growing company in San Francisco called Big Commerce. That was taking my startup days of building website to a whole another level. Was the Australian company doing e-commerce platform, apps and shipping and all sorts of things. Again, really help taking the learnings from PayPal growth, the learning from on different side of roles to help that company to establish the way to scale and then grow and shipping product. And similarly, the next journey I went to was at Fizai, a very interesting company, a lot smaller in scale. When I started, was only 150 people. Company was really on the verge of like a breakout growth, and which it did. It went from over about 150 to 350 people in less than a year. And that's, again, it's a brand new challenge in that how do you take a company, it's not too big, not small, and in the enterprise world that you have to build a platform while you also have to deliver product to companies, that two very strong competing forces in how do we focus on our roadmap, how do we deliver, how do we structure our team. And it was a great journey where a lot of things I learned through my earlier careers at PayPal, through my experience at Shutterfly, through my experience at Big Commerce, all helped with the journey, and also kind of come to the breaking point of, hey, we cannot do this. I know how to do it, but we cannot do it on spreadsheets. So that really leads to the birth of Dragonboat.
That's amazing. I love how, looking back, all the steps sort of fit in. And your experience is both big companies and small companies, and then also at a company that grew to the size of PayPal, growing that team. But you mentioned right at the start, and this is very interesting, that you actually wanted to be a surgeon. And because you were a woman, you found that challenging. And so you came to America. So you're coming to a new country, you're switching fields as well. And you had to come to a country where they spoke a different language. Again, so even as a woman in tech, did you still face some challenges to get into tech?
I definitely do. I think in many ways. So earlier days it's easier. It's very interesting that you see when you're at the level of individual contributors, maybe not on the engineering team, but as overall, if you look at the UX, the design, the product, the quality, look at individual contributor level, that there are fewer women, but not significantly smaller number. But the higher you go, the smaller the number. And a few years in, I started to realize everyone around me are guys, and yeah, that's definitely something where it is challenging from that perspective, where the viewpoint can be very different, the style can be very different. And how do we collaborate? And sometimes, the I'm not saying tension, but a little bit of different perspective or opinions get carried out and discussed are definitely different. I have learned to be more conscious about how I put my viewpoint out in a way that's more explicit, more direct, and sometimes repeat myself more often than I would be otherwise more comfortable in my sort of this own communication style.
Right. That's interesting. So some like so the challenges are like kind of being able to communicate more effectively with people. What are some other things that some other challenges you face, or other things that you've learned being a woman in tech?
I think there are a couple of things that I don't want to sort of stereotype one way or another, but at least from myself and a couple of my friends' perspective, I feel like it would help us more if we prepared more. In that, it seems that quite often when we in situations, the meetings, brainstormings, the other sessions, and debate where it is often more forgiving if a male counterpart has a point that wasn't fully vetted or thought through, and it's more forgiving versus someone, a female, or you may not be as a fast thinker, or you didn't have as much effect and figures that tend to be a little bit more likely discounted. So I think that basically require us to do a lot more sort of homework. I think Rob probably heard from you, hey, what do I need to prepare for this? I really build that kind of habit. If I don't prepare for the session, and I would be in a slightly disadvantage compared to, typically guys. So that's one interesting thing I noticed, kind of subtle, but it's more common in meetings.
Oh, I see. Interesting. And you also mentioned that, as you move from IC to manager, and now you're the CEO of a startup, there's you see fewer and fewer women in similar roles. What are some other differences in terms of your roles and responsibilities going from IC to manager to founder?
Very good question. I think there are more similarity in these roles than I originally expected. Mm-hmm. However, there are also very conscious decisions what I make in different roles. Meaning, the broader my responsibility is, the less I get to do things I really like. I think in my happier days in my career was a time when I was actually product manager, was a time when I was actually project manager, because I actually get to get my hands dirty working with the team and spend a lot of time on things that not worrying about it. Now, as I grow higher from IC to directors and VPs and CEOs, I realize I don't get to do a lot of things that are fun. And I have to make a conscious decision that if I do something fun, I'm quite often are not working on my job correctly, because that really should be my team's opportunity to do things that are more direct impact. And what I need is to provide the framework to support them, to enable them. The framework not only within our own teams, but more about how our team work with the other team, how our organization work with the other organization. And these are a lot more impactful, and sometimes it's a little bit of learning curve, and then require effort to constantly remind myself, my focus is different. My focus now is enabling my team, enabling my organization, enabling my company to, and everyone inside of my company are partners with us to be able to achieve great things together.
That's a really interesting perspective. The way you define like what was fun for you earlier, but now you have to be looking out for others in the framework. But like when people look at your career, it's kind of like almost a dream career, right? You work your way up the ladder. You went from IC to manager, now a founder. And so for other people coming in and just starting out their career, what are some pieces of advice you have for them?
Yeah, well, very good question. And actually, it's interesting that when we look at things that we easily to see the sort of the trend, but it's harder when you actually going through that. It's up and down, even though the trend is up for the most part, but on the journey, it's actually up and down. The reason I'm saying, for example, in the earlier days, when I came to US, I was quite successful before I came to US. When I came here, I have to start everything from scratch, right? I have to not only learn the language, just get by here, and also take an unpaid internship, basically working at a company where everyone else is, on paper more junior than me. But that's not the point. My point is I would learn something new I don't know. And that's, to me, these guys are more senior than me, right? So I think that kind of steps happen in many ways. So when I was at the PayPal and working in the program management space for a while, I became, very successful as a large team, etc. But then I went to product space. I actually took a flat and to actually step down because I became an individual contributor again. So I actually had to go write specs. I have to working with the team and kind of step back, even though the level is the same, but the role itself, it's deeper and more IC-like role. So that actually happens from company to company, right? So I think having a mindset saying, hey, I'm doing something really new to me, not that how experienced whatever level I am, but this thing is newer to me, and therefore I'm willing to take a step down for the next step up. I think that is very important mindset for me, at least, to be able to sort of progress both in terms of the position in terms of responsibility, also in terms of how do we make the path forward. It's not one straight line.
That's awesome. That's some really great advice, because a lot of people often feel like maybe the ego comes up and they don't want to take a step back. But anyone listening to this is such valuable advice. And so you are also a mentor on Plato, and you're giving out a lot of great advice to all the mentees on Plato. Can you tell us why you decided to join as a mentor and describe that experience?
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So a few things I really decided to join the community. One is I feel like everyone lives in a bubble of circles. That's a good thing. That's also a bad thing, right? Because we don't really get to experience new things, especially when we grow up in our career. We start to form a network of people, and that would give us a more of a bubble. So to me, being able to interact with the new people in different places that what I normally don't get interact with, it's something interesting to me. The second part, it's about mentorship. It's something very, very important to me personally and professionally, because I truly believe, as someone grow from an individual contributor to a leader, I personally being mentored directly and indirectly, and sometimes are the ones I reach out to. Sometimes people just mentor me without even knowing it. I benefit a lot from that. So I also take that with me for my team, and every single member of my team in the past worked with me, including those who do not work with me anymore. I always told them in my first introduction is that, it's very big for me to develop the people, and it's my responsibility to mentor you in some way that's helpful. And I think that's my big mentors, not only pay it forward, and I think it's just good for everyone. The third part is, very interestingly, is mentoring people in some ways, you have the reverse effect as well. I am also being mentored with the people's new perspective, with the questions that I didn't think about. So I have always, for that reason, enjoyed that as well. So these are a couple of main things that contribute to me being part of the community and fairly active on it.
That's really great, and I love the fact that you're also learning something from it as well. It's amazing to have this community and people like you being a part of the community. Well, Becky, I think that's all we have right now. Like this has been a really great conversation with you and super valuable information. Thank you so much for being on this episode with us.
Thank you. It's been fun. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.